So people really actually liked that Roscon's Rumble video a lot. So I decided, okay, what if I'm going to start from Legacy all the way up till the latest expansion, Wisbang's Workshop. Genuinely, by the time I'm done doing this series, we'll probably have one more expansion. Because I'm probably going to do one of these a week, maybe every 2 weeks from now on. So we'll probably have a new expansion by then. So there is that. Of course, if you don't know what's happening, I'm going to choose 3 cards from every class to change and how I think it would be better for Wild and Twist. Standard's not really in mind, but some cards will probably be in a better power level for Standard as well. Like with Gonk in the first video, I think that generally could go to Core Set. Now, starting with Druid. Technically, I could do Demon Hunter and Death Knight because they're on the website for Legacy, but I'm not fucking doing that. This is just core cards that were made for core that have rotated out, or I don't know what. I don't know. Anyway, for Druid, Druid has an interesting Legacy set, right? You have a lot of iconic cards like Nourish, Starfall, of course, like Ancient Allure, Swipe, things like that. I think what I want to do is I want to choose some of the cards that kind of do see play. So it's hard. A lot of the core cards this is probably going to be the hardest video, just straight up. So I'm going to take a minute to go through cards that I think probably should get some love. If you remember from my How to Fix Druid video, I thought Wrath was updated for today's game to make it more in line with, other cards, because it's a very iconic card. It gives Druid, a little bit of removal in the early game and, card draw. I think what you could really easily do is remove the choose one. It doesn't really matter. It's too weak in today's game. A lot of choose one cards need to be really fucking strong, like on both options, and these are kind of not that good. And I think you could easily change it to deal 1 damage, or deal 3 damage to a minion. Let's remove that. And draw a nature spell. You can do it like that. I think that this is probably a little too strong. I'll be honest with you. You can make it 2 if you wanted it to be like that. But I think a easier way to do it is deal 3 damage to a minion. If it dies, draw a nature spell. This is a lot more in line with Shadow Bomb, or Dark Bomb. Why did I say Shadow Bomb? Dark Bomb in Warlock, the newest version of Dark Bomb, where it draws a shadow spell, but this can't go face, and I think that is a lot more interesting for Druid. I don't think we should be giving Druid more face damage. I think we should be giving it, kind of okay removable draw cards combination. I think that would be fine, genuinely. So this is a bit of cheating, actually, because Nordil Druid is technically a Legacy, but it was a core set card, and then it became Legacy after that. So I'm going to include it. I think what you do is you just bing, bong, boom, wow. Nordil Druid, Battlecry, your next spell this turn costs 4 less. Now it's a 0 mana 3/5. It's similar to Desert Nest Matron before it was changed, but instead of having taunt and requiring a dragon and just being refresh, it makes the next spell cost 4 less. So you play with like Nourish, play with a lot of different stuff. And I think this, makes the card a lot better, especially for Twist. Like I'm saying, these are changes for Wild and Twist. Of course, if the card wanted to be, put in Core Set, they could do that. This would probably be fair for Druid and Core, all things considered, especially because Nest Matron exists. So I think it would be cool there. Then the last card I wanted to do is actually Healing Touch. I feel like we could bring back Heal Druid, where you had Lucent Bark, which was a cool card, and you had all those cards from Rise of Shadows. I think the way you do it is 2 mana, and you lower it down to 5. Draw a card. And this is basically Shield Block. I'll admit, it's basically Shield Block, but I think this would be a good way to bring back a Heal Druid with Lucent Bark, Rise of Shadows stuff. They didn't really ever do that again, kind of because it sucked. But I think it would be nice, right? Bring back Heal Druid. Obviously, you would want this card in a deck like that. This could easily go to Core as well. Definitely not too strong for Standard. Hunter is also pretty awkward as a change. Like, there are a lot of Hunter cards that could be up on the change block for magnitude of different reasons. I think that what I want to do is pick some more of the really bad ones and make them not terrible, because something like Explosive Shot is one of the worst cards in Classic or in the Legacy set. So I want to change like the really fucking bad cards to be kind of not that terrible. One of the cards I want to change is Bestial Wrath. If you've ever played Knuckles Hunter, you used to know this used to be one of the best cards in that deck. It was obviously bad because the card is terrible, but I want to change it up, right? Give it Beast +2 attack enemy in this turn. It attacks a random enemy. You might be thinking, wait, random enemy, not enemy minion, random enemy. So it could go face. The idea behind this is it just doubles up. Maybe you could change it to +1 attack, and that would be a little more fair, probably. But I think +2 attack is really fun. I think that Hunter can have a strong card. Hunter can have a really strong card in Wild, guys. I know that's crazy. I know that's crazy talk, but Hunter can have one good card, right? Hunter can have one broken card. This card would be very broken, I will admit, though. Like, genuinely very broken if it worked like this. It attacks a random enemy, because the fact that it basically gives whatever beast you play charge that turn for 1 mana. And I think that's really fun, and I think it's very funny. So that's why I'm going to keep it like this, because I think it's funny. Another card that I think could be pretty easily changed is when one of your minions attacks, summon 3 1/1 snakes that attack the attacker. I mean, it's closer to zombies. It's actually a kind of decent secret now, because instead of just being shitty 1/1s that don't actually do anything, they fight for board very well. And you could easily make it 4 instead of 3. You can make it 4 1/1 snakes that attack the attacker, so it's definitely a lot closer to zombies. I think this probably wouldn't even be that great in Wild. However, I want to make Snake Trap not fucking dog shit terrible, and this is kind of the only way I can think of it, right? It would be pretty good in things like Even Hunter, genuinely. It would make it so if you play like Scuttlebutt Ghoul, so you have a taunt, it would make it really good into aggro, and that would be nice, right? Giving you less polarized matchups overall, so you have better, just better matchups. And I think that this is a great way to do it. It's a secret that sucks ass, and I want it to be good. Then you have Gladiator's Longbow. You might be asking, how the fuck would you make Gladiator's Longbow not a shit card? Done. In current year, 3-mana weapons are doing 9 to 12 damage, so 10 damage from a 3-mana weapon, not that crazy. Let's be real here. There's no reason that this could not just exist as 3 mana. Like, again, I will always talk about the fact that Swordfish is 3 mana, 12 damage weapon. Doesn't fucking matter that you need to have pirates in your deck, because you're only running it in one deck anyway, and it's the only aggro rogue deck, so it's not like it matters, right? Gladiator's Longbow at 3 puts Face Hunter back on the menu in so many ways. It's probably it would be good in Odd Hunter. It's actually pretty useful because it's immune while attacking, so you can actually use it in some more defensive Hunter lists, like a Reno Hunter would probably play this card genuinely, because it either goes face for 10 damage, or it can kill some high-value minions that you need to kill, which is, part of how Reno Hunter works. I think this is a great, great, great change to the card to make it actually playable for once. Mage actually has a pretty iconic legacy set. Like, most of these cards I've seen play. However, I never only said that I want to buff cards. I said I want to fix cards. What's this one card in the legacy set? If I scroll up slowly... Iceblock! Oh my god, Iceblock? Yeah, I'm changing Iceblock for sure. That's obviously one of the ones that's getting changed. I think that we should change Antonidas to be cheaper, because if Sorcerer's Apprentice costs 4 now, Antonidas should cost less to make up for that. And then I kind of don't know what else to change, to be honest with you. I think maybe we could do some jank shit with Ice Lance. I think that would be really funny if Ice Lance costs 0. I think that would be really fucking funny. So, a lot of people have thrown around like once per game for Iceblock, and I don't think that really makes sense for an epic spell. Yes, Iceblock is annoying when it's twice a game, I'll admit, but I think you just have like, cannot be discovered. Wow! So crazy! Or I guess cannot be generated. Wow! Oh my god, I fixed the card! Of course, this wouldn't be a text change; it would be a rule change, which is how they do a lot of things. Like you can't discover, certain legendary spells, and you can't discover triple rune cards and Death Knight. So it wouldn't be specifically saying cannot be generated, but this would be like the idea behind the change. Antonidas is a iconic legendary minion for Mage, but it's so fucking bad, right? It used to be like a combo with Sorcerer's Apprentice, but then Sorcerer's Apprentice got nerfed by 2 mana, and wow, you suddenly can't do that combo anymore, even with Time Warp. So what if you just bink bonk 5 mana Archmage Antonidas? Incredibly simple. You don't even have to change the health. It's not like it matters that much. 5 mana 5/7. It's a legendary. It's old. It can be this. The stats on this minion literally don't matter whatsoever because it is a combo piece. And I think that you could do this. I would much rather get Exodia Maged with Time Warp than have to fucking sit through Renathal. I fucking hate sitting through 800 fucking turns of Time Warp where it only does 5 damage to you. I would rather just lose to 1 Time Warp because that would be a lot more interesting. Sorry, I'm not going to talk. Anyway, I think that Archmage Antonidas can very easily go to 5 mana. You could put this in Standard and see some, Fireball generation. Just play a couple cards with Antonidas to get some Fireballs, and that would probably be pretty interesting for different kind of burn mage lists. Just have maybe 3 Fireballs from your Antonidas that you just can fire at your opponent for a couple turns to soften them up for your combo. That would be pretty interesting, actually, to be honest. And then you have Ice Lance. Like I said, I think Ice Lance can go to 0. However, I think it should go to 3 damage if it were to go to 0. This would bring back Tempo Mage so much. This would be so unreal good for Tempo Mage, right? Yeah, I know you're probably like, oh, 0 mana spell in Mage, that's kind of a little too strong, don't you think, when you have Sif or Mozaki? And yeah, you're probably right. However, those decks fucking suck ass in Wild. They're terrible. They're too slow. They're not consistent. So, you play anything else, right? I think this would push Tempo Mage a lot, where you're going to run, of course, Frostbolt and Ice Lance, and then you get a lot of damage that way. You chip down your opponent with minions throughout the game, and then you finish them off with this. I think that's fine. I don't see why that would be too strong. Tempo Mage sucks ass. We can push archetypes. People don't like to rework cards and buff archetypes. They like to buff, useless cards instead of cards that would fill an archetype, like Ice Lance would, pushing Tempo Mage with these freeze cards that it used to be. It used to be good enough. For Paladin, there's this thing about Paladin, right, where you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 secrets, and Paladin doesn't get secrets anymore. Paladin is no longer a secret class. They decided that Paladin was going to be reworked to have auras instead of secrets. So I can't really talk about any of the secrets because it wouldn't really make sense. I don't think that Blizzard cares about the secrets. So what am I going to do? I'm going to talk about some more dog shit cards. And what are those cards? This one. This one. And this one. Yeah, we can buff some bad Paladin cards. Don't get me wrong. Hammer of Wrath is a pretty simple change, to be honest. I think you can just bink bonk. This is not what I would want to do, actually. I think that Hammer of Wrath should stay at 3 mana, but increase the damage. 3 mana deal 4 is pretty standard. Maybe even 3 mana deal 5 draw a card. That puts it more in line with other cards like, Kill Command, but Kill Command sucks ass and hasn't been a good card for forever. And of course it's going to draw a card. I think this would be fine. Genuinely, this would make Holy Wrath Paladin not better because you wouldn't run this in the deck. So you would run this in different kinds of Paladin decks. You'd maybe run it in a Control Paladin for the fact that it's 3 mana deal 5 draw a card. You can do a lot with that. You can kill a minion, you can push damage face, you can get lethal outs from it. As well as 3 damage is really low for a 3 mana spell. It just is. A lot of classes, if they got a card like this, they'd be way too strong, but it's Paladin. Paladin doesn't really have burn spells and burn cards that it can use very well. It has minion buff spells and minion buff spells. That's how Paladin kind of kills you, usually. And I think this would be very fair for the Paladin class. For Light's Justice, I actually had a kind of interesting idea for it, right? It's, 1 mana, 1/4 weapon, but what if you just add some text to it? Death Rattle. Give your silver hand recruits. I don't know how to spell that once. Wait, how would you do that? 1 second. All right. Silver Hand recruits +1 attack. You might be saying, oh, isn't Light's Justice supposed to be, a textless card? Textless cards don't fucking work or exist anymore. There's no reason to play a textless card unless it has something special to it. Mistake is not a textless card, no matter what someone tries to tell you, because it is an amalgam. Amalgam means that it gets buffed from different cards. It can summon patches. It can get its cost reduced from Galvanizer. So a card like Light's Justice, it can be like this, as well as the fact that it's hard to do. You have to swing 4 times with this card to give your Silverhand recruits +1 attack. You would play it in Odd Paladin, of course. Odd Paladin, not a good deck. So this would be something that your opponent can play around, and you can play around very, very well. I like this effect a lot, personally. I think that tying strong effects to death rattles on weapons that take a long time to do anything is cool. And Light's Justice now is upgraded significantly. So for Holy Light originally was strictly better than Healing Touch. So I'm not going to make this just, Healing Touch again, the one that I already did for Druid. I'm going to do restore 8 health to your hero. Excess heals your minions. Or heals your friendly minions. So say you have full health and you play Holy Light, you'll heal... Here, I guess, excess is split across your friendly minions. I just realized how broken that would be otherwise. So restore 8 health to your hero, excess split across your friendly minions. I think this would be a lot more interesting than the current Holy Light. Of course, it would be a buff to Zephyrus, actually, a little bit, because Holy Light is an option that you get from Zephyrus quite often. Same with all of these cards, actually. Being buffed makes Zephyrus a tiny bit better. Who cares? I mean, a lot of these cards you probably wouldn't even pick. You'd probably pick Healing Touch, actually. Let's be real here. If it's, 2 mana, heal 5, draw a card, you'd probably pick that. But this is an alternative. Now you might be thinking, oh, wouldn't this be a Priest effect? Yeah, it is. It should be. I'm surprised there isn't a card like this in Priest, to be honest with you. This would be really fucking cool. It would probably be a little too strong in overheal decks because every one heal instance would trigger, and you should probably wait for Anonas to rotate out before you put this in Priest. But it's not in Priest, so it can be in Paladin. It would be fair. Now, Priest, we just mentioned it. Yeah, now we're at Priest. Priest is actually very hard to talk about, in my opinion, because a lot of these cards, saw play for a while, right? Or they're just, worthless beyond talking about, right? Even something like Cabal Shadow Priest saw play all the way up to, Kobolds and Catacombs with the... Oh god, what's it called? Twilight Acolyte or something like that, where it was if you had a dragon in hand, swap its attack, and then you'll give it 2 attack, and then you play this card on it. That was pretty good. So, interestingly enough, I want to change a couple of these cards that I think are pretty interesting, and other people, you guys might find interesting as well. So I looked up Shadow Form on this website because I'm using Hearth cards, right? And the way that it turned out is it actually has the, if you already in Shadow Form, deal 3 damage text to it. And I was going to make it so if you're already in Shadow Form, deal 1 addition, gain 1 damage. That's what I was actually going to do, but I think that it's fun. I think that this makes Reno Priest a little better. It doesn't really change regular Shadow Priest, but it makes Reno Priest just a tiny bit better that you have a Wildfire now, and I think it's fun. I just think it is a fun card. I'm gonna be honest with you. Why does it not have the Shadow Spell School? That's probably not good. There we go, Shadow. I think it's just because it was taking the old version, and the old version wasn't updated to be a Shadow spell. That's probably why. Anyway, I think that this would be fun. I think it makes Reno Priest just a little bit better without really buffing Shadow Priest, and then you can run this in other Priest decks as well, because it does set your hero power to Shadow Form anyway. Another card that I was interested in is actually Shadow Madness. I think that Shadow... Well, it was 3 mana now. I think Shadow Madness could pretty easily be changed to 2 mana. It would put it more in line with Potion of Madness, genuinely. And I think that this would just be a lot more interesting. I mean, it's kind of shit that it's the way it works. I think that if you were to keep it at 3, you could do like gain control of any minion with 3 or less attack until end of turn. It dies when it returns. I think that would be another interesting way to make the card a little better. It is effectively killing that minion, but for +1 mana, you get to use whatever it is. It's worse on Death Rattle minions if they can return, but if you can trade it off, it's exactly the same. I think this is just a lot more interesting than the current way Shadow Madness works. It's kind of just worse than Potion of Madness as it is currently. In current year, Mass Dispel doesn't need to cost 4 mana. Like, let's be fucking real here, dude. Why does it not show that it's a holy spell? Let's just holy. Anyway, I mean, think of Shard of the Naru. Shard of the Naru is really close to the same effect, but it costs 1 mana. I mean, Mass Dispel for 2 mana, wow. It's still more expensive than Shard of the Naru because it draws in the same turn. But I mean, it doesn't need to be 4 mana. It just doesn't. Shard of the Naru is 1 mana with tradable. If you don't know what it does, it's 1 mana tradable, silence all enemy minions. So there's no reason that for twice the cost, it can't draw on the same turn. Because you trade Shard of the Naru a lot. Usually you are trading it because it's not actually that useful in a lot of matchups. So Mass Dispel being 2 mana, yeah, it's going to draw a lot of the time, but it's still not that useful in a lot of matchups because, obviously, if Shard of the Naru at 1 isn't useful, Mass Dispel at 2 isn't going to be that useful. That's what I'm saying. It can be like this and have draw a card at the same time. Rogue also has a lot of pretty iconic cards. You have Shadow Step, Preparation, Cold Blood, Deadly Poison, things like that. And it's kind of hard to talk about which ones to change. This is definitely up there. This is definitely what I'm going to do. But a lot of these cards are just also really bad. Like, everything from this onward has been terrible for a long time. And I almost don't think they should be changed, especially in the case of this card right here. It would be very toxic to the game if Vanish was playable again. Let's be real here. Headcrack was one of those cards that got its art changed alongside a lot of other legacy cards, to make it a little more family-friendly. It used to be like a rock hitting some guy in the head and blood splurted out, if I remember correctly. But now it's like this goblin hitting a skeleton with a fireball. I like the effect of Headcrack. I do. I think the first thing you do is remove combo. I think the game has evolved past the need for something like that. And then I think you raise it to 2, or lower it to 2 mana. 2 mana, deal 2 damage to the enemy hero, return this to your hand next turn. It's just fun. I mean, it gives Rogue a lot of chip damage. I don't even think this card would see play, genuinely. If you made it 1 mana, it would probably be too strong, let's be real here. But I think at 2 mana, it's a lot more interesting. It's just kind of fun. You can make it like 1 mana, deal 1 damage. I think that would be interesting. At 2 damage, it would probably be too strong, let's be real here. For Twist, not as much Wild. At Wild, it would probably be, good. At 2, it would probably be pretty fair, in all things considered. So I guess I could put it at 2, but for Twist, a lot of these are still, thinking about Twist. I feel like this would be way too strong. That being said, I'm gonna fucking do it because it's my channel and I get to change the cards how I like doing it. Rah! Si7 Agent, I think, can very easily go to a 2 mana, 2/3 combo, deal 3 damage. You might be thinking, why would you do this? You buffed it in 2 different ways, a mana cost buff and a effect buff. The reason you do this is because think of something like Medivh's Valet, right? It is a 2 mana, 2/3 that deals 3 damage on a condition. Of course, that condition is having a secret, and I think having a secret is a lot easier than, doing combo, especially like any deck that you would run this in. Yeah, you can do like prep and you have a 0 mana card for combo. Yeah. But so you wouldn't play this in Wild currently, and it's just a buff for Twist. I think that this makes the card a lot more interesting, makes it a lot stronger. It's a big tempo card for Rogue. I think maybe there's a way a Tempo Rogue would work in Wild. But here's the real kicker. The real reason I want to buff Si7 Agent is because of this card. I think that would be really fun to buff Si7 Rogue. This was a very fucking awesome deck in Standard when it existed at the time, and like later United and Stormwind. It wasn't as good as most of the other quest lines, don't get me wrong, but it was so cool. You get the Spy Gizmo, you get Spy Master Scabs, and you would give it Stealth with... Which one is it? Yeah, with Noggin Fog Generator, and it was so cool. It was just genuinely cool, and I think that, you know, really buffing Si7 Agent to be a good minion, just actually a solid minion, would push that quest line a lot, and it would, you know, evolve the Rogue gameplay rather than just being combo and Pirates and Kingsbane, I guess, to give you at least one more playable Rogue deck. I think this would push that deck a lot. Another card that I think could be buffed in Rogue is Sap. However, I'm going to put a restriction on it instead of just making it 1 mana completely. Return an enemy minion that costs 2 or less to your opponent's hand. You might be saying, oh, is this not a nerf? Is it? I mean, the idea is that you're going to put it on, you know, like a 2 mana minion for Sap, and then, effectively speaking, you'll have paid 1 mana to make your opponent pay 4 mana. I think that is worth it. It pushes, you know, a little bit more Tempo Rogue possibilities. You know, they don't have to deal with taunts that cost really cheap or anything like that. You could make an argument to make it 3 or less, and that would probably be fair as well, but I don't think you should make it unlimited, like an unlimited mana cost if it is a 1 mana Sap. I think that would be a little too strong and a little toxic, genuinely speaking. I think this is just interesting. I like Sap. I like playing with and around Sap. I think it was a relatively fair for the game card. It wasn't a removal card, so it didn't kill your minion. It just delayed the inevitable for the Rogue, which sometimes just gave them enough time to do what they had to do. Other times, it didn't do anything because it was just 2 mana, not kill a minion. You know, especially if it was like a super high value minion that with like a good battle cry, Sap became a lot worse. So I think doing it like this is very, very, very fun. Shaman is very delicate because if I touch any of these cards too much, I could fucking break everything in Wild and in Standard and in Twist. A lot of these cards are just teetering on the edge of viability, and a lot of them are genuinely good. So it's kind of hard to decipher which ones I should change and shouldn't. But of course, I'm going to nerf at least one of these. You'll never guess which one. It's definitely not on this side of the screen. Definitely not. The first card I want to change is Lava Burst. It is so outdated for a 3 mana deal 5 card to overload you for 2. You just bump. Wow. I think Lava Burst is a fire spell as well. Wow. 3 mana deal 5 damage. Wow. It has the most basic, uninteresting effect in the game, but what are you going to do, right? It's way too long coming for a 3 mana spell to overload you for 2. There's no real downside to changing this. Like, it doesn't change the card very much, but I think that you have to modernize some of the cards. It's way too outdated for a 3 mana deal 5 card to overload you for 2, genuinely. Speaking of an outdated card, you have a Dust Devil. Dust Devil should not fucking overload you for... Why are they not showing? I think it's because Legacy is broken. Dust Devil should not overload you for 2. I mean, I don't even know if it should overload you. It's got 1 health. Like, yeah, it kind of gets out of control, but I think what you do is just bump it down to 2 attack, and it becomes a lot more fair. I don't think this card will be better in either format that way, but I don't like the fact that so many old Shaman cards overload you for way more than the card is actually worth. What's it called? There's the 2 mana mech in Shaman. It's a 2 mana 3/2 with Wind Fury and no downside. Dust Devil being a 1 mana 2/1 with Wind Fury is fine. It just is. Mana cost wise, it is very, very fine as it is now. As well as the fact that 1 health makes it still really fucking easy to kill. Young Dragonhawk is the neutral version of this, and it's a 1/1. There's no reason this can't just be a 2/1. It's a class card. Class cards are naturally stronger than neutral cards on average. I'm going to do it. I don't think Totem Might should exist for Shaman. I think this card is way too fucking strong, and even Shaman, I think this is way better than Totemic Surge, and I think we have to fucking kill this card. I'm gonna fucking do it. 1 mana. Holy shit. If any other card in the entire game gave your entire board plus 2 health, people would be fucking rioting. But for some reason, we can give it the totems. Any other fucking tribe had 0 mana, gained plus 2 attack and plus 2 health, it would be the most broken fucking card ever. And guess fucking what? It is broken as shit. But they don't fucking care because it's a wild problem. Whoa! I hate this card viscerally. I viscerally fucking hate Totemic Might. Wild aggro decks should not have access to giving their minions health. Totemic Might and Shift Surgeon are fundamentally toxic for the game. Genuinely fucking speaking. I'm genuinely upset that this card still exists in the form that it does at 0 mana. Warlock also has a lot of iconic cards. A lot of these cards just get constantly rotated into the core set, and then there's some cards that don't. It's really hard to think about which cards should be changed for Warlock, because most of them are fucking terribly designed. Horrifically designed, because Warlock is a horrifically designed class. Shocking to fucking no one, right? I think that you have to understand that when your cards require you to pay a cost, and then there are cards that are like, oh, if you pay that cost, you just get to do this, that's a bad fucking design. Yeah, discarding is bad, but discarding isn't bad when it actually draws you 3 cards, or draws you 2 cards, or it deals like 6 damage split amongst enemies. Then discarding isn't bad. So I don't like discard as a mechanic. I think it is fucking terribly done in Hearthstone, and I'm not going to touch it with a 10-foot pole. So I'm going to change, some more cards instead. Corruption is actually a pretty interesting card. It's 1 mana, choose any minion, start your turn, destroy it, yada yada. When I first actually started playing the game, I didn't realize that this was like the guy's head. I thought it was like the coolest fucking art ever, because I thought it was like some super abstract thing. And then when I got a close look at the card, I'm like, damn, this is fucking boring. I felt like this was like something crazy, and this was like the head of like a demon and something crazy. Anyway, that's just a little tidbit. Choose a minion, at the start of your turn, destroy it. Restore health equal to its attack. I think this would be pretty cool, actually. Or you can make it like so. Actually, a better way to do this effect would be to whenever ever it damages your hero, heal that much instead. So you would play Corruption on a minion instead of it healing for the attacks. I feel like that would be annoying overall. It would kind of be a little imbalanced, because what if you wanted to trade? Then it would just be a free heal. So I was thinking, okay, well, what if whenever it damages your hero, restore that much health instead? So instead of going face with the card and it being a net neutral, not heal that much instead. Sorry, heal that much. Sorry, that word's a lot better. I think that it incentivizes your opponent to trade the minion rather than going face. So you play this against, like, say, Shadow Priest. You put it on the Void Touch Attendant. Maybe they'll think, oh, I'm going to have to trade my Void Touch now instead of pushing that 2 damage, because it would just heal anyway. And it gives your opponent a little more counterplay, but it makes the card significantly better, because it heals you instead of taking damage for that minion. So it's not like a lost tempo to play a card and it only dies at the start of your turn. It now will heal you for that, so you're not losing as much to play this card. We've long since come from the days where Shadowbolt was a good removal spell, and I think one way to do it, actually, is change it to 2 mana. This might actually be too strong at 2 mana to deal 4 to a minion with no other effect. Don't get me wrong, I think it's a shadow spell too, actually. But I think this would be actually kind of cool. Give Warlock just a really big fuck you to a 1 minion. It doesn't have any secondary effects, but it's just a lot of damage. You didn't run Dark Bomb when it was, 2 mana deal 3 to anything. So 2 mana deal 4 just to a minion. You might not even run this card. Seriously. But it would be a lot better in Twist for Warlock for sure. Not so much in Wild. That is definitely true. The way that Hearthstone has evolved as well is that whenever you have a card that's 2 mana, draw 2 tutorable things specifically, they kind of are 2 mana nowadays. You have Swindle, you have ice fishing, and then there's a bunch of other things. I just can't remember them off the top of my head, sorry. So I think Sense Demons going to 2 mana is very, very simple. It's very easy to do as well, and I think it would be fine. It probably wouldn't even be that good, let's be real here. Big Demon Warlock hasn't really been a thing for a while, and they kind of are more about summoning from your deck now with Crane Game. That's definitely the best way to do it. So I think doing this is fine. It would be a lot more interesting and make the card better in zoo decks. You could play it in some kind of zoo as refill, and it would probably be good there. Let's be real. I think zoo deserves to be pushed. I don't think discard deserves to be pushed, but I think zoo does. Warlock can have an aggro deck. Wow, shocking, I know. And then Warrior, actually, I want to change Bloodsail Deckhand back to a 2/2 so bad, but it's not technically a legacy card, but like, does that matter? I already changed another one. And then like, you have cards like Corron Elite that were so good for a long time, and I feel like this card could be 3 mana, genuinely, and I don't think it would be too strong. But like, there's so many cards here, right, that just feel like they could be good again with slight changes, and like, I want that. I want to have these like iconic Warrior cards be playable again, truly. Starting with Upgrade. Upgrade used to be fucking great in Pirate Warrior. I think a really simple way to do this, actually, is if you have a weapon, give it +1/+1. If you control a pirate, give it +2/+1. Otherwise, equip a 1/3 weapon. Upgrade used to be great in Pirate Warrior. I think up until United in Stormwind is when you cut Upgrade. It was good all the way up until there, because, I mean, it's a lot of damage. If you have, like, a 3 durability weapon, it's 1 mana deal 3 damage over a few turns. It makes your Ankar better. Ankar draws more. It makes, what else? It would make it so you could play Dread Corsair with a, it would make it so you can play Dread Corsair with like a 3-attack weapon, like a Fiery War Axe. And I think that this is fine. I think that this would be good. It fits the theme of Upgrade being in Pirate Warrior and doesn't really change it anywhere else, but it wasn't really good anywhere else. So does that matter? No. I already mentioned Bloodsail Deckhand. It used to be a 2. It was a 2/1, then a 2/2, and then it got nerfed. It's been completely forgotten ever since. Oops, I accidentally unpaused something. Anyway, I think you just put it back to 2 health. It would be fine. Pirate Warrior is not exactly a good deck, and I don't even think that the quest is good. Pirate Warrior list, I think the quest is holding people back from playing any kind of Pirate Warrior list, as well as they haven't really received any support, but that is true. I think that putting this back to 2 health would help the deck immensely, and again, I don't think you would even play the quest line, so don't think about quest line Pirate Warrior. Think about a traditional Pirate Warrior. Think the quest line is too slow. Not playing a minion on 1 definitely fucking sucks. So I think this would be a lot better. And then for Corron Elite, I mean, this is a really easy change. Just make it 3 mana. Maybe lower the health back, right? I think that this would be fun. Again, Corron was played in Pirate Warrior all the way up until Descent of Dragons, I think, if I remember correctly. And that previous version of Pirate Warrior, it didn't run that many pirates, let's be real here. It actually was more like patches and like, I don't know, like a few kind of okay pirates, and then you would rely on just, patches being really good, cannon being really good, and then you would just hit your opponent in the face a lot with Corron Elite. I think that this would, and other cards, like Frothing Berserker was also on that deck, and you would run like Death Spite, so you could get like a lot of attack on your Frothing Berserker and stuff like that. It was so cool. We don't have decks that cool anymore. Like, this is one of those decks that's like the perfect amalgamation of cards that you don't get anymore, because decks have to be streamlined as fuck to be playable. That being said, I think Corron could easily go to a 3 mana 4/2 charge, and it would be fine. It's just 3 mana, take 4 damage. Like, it's gonna die. I think this is definitely fair for Warrior. And then for neutrals, I mean, there's so many neutrals, and a lot of them are kind of iconic, but like, I mean, there's Dragon. But I feel like a lot of them just are really terrible, and I feel like I want to change a couple of them to mainly just have better stats, right? Like, most of these cards have fucking terrible stats. Like, Captain's Parrot, Why is it a 1/1? Why does it need to be? Or like Mana Wraith. Mana Wraith for this effect should have more stats. It just should. It should be like a 3/3. It should be a 2-mana 3/3. So I'm going to go through and look at a couple of these to decide what I feel like should be changed. I feel like a lot of them just should be better than they are currently. One of the cards that I feel like should be changed is Blood Knight. Blood Knight is a pretty staple anti-Divine Shield card that was used in the past against Giggling Inventor, actually, during Boomsday. And I think what you do to it is make it a 2-mana, 2/2, and then it gains +2/+2. Be a little more fair that way. Even Paladin is currently a quite strong deck in Wild, and it's really, really hard to deal with for a lot of decks. So I think putting Blood Knight down to 2 mana would make it, better in Zephyrus, of course, and it makes it better as just a tech card, right, if you need it. Like, say you're playing, Questline Druid, right? This would be a really good tech card for Questline Druid, because even Druid, or even Paladin, fucks you up. It is impossible matchup, genuinely, because Divine Shield and Taunt. I think that this makes the card a little bit better overall. Yeah, it loses the stats, but you're not playing this card for the stats as much as you're playing it to remove a lot of Divine Shields. Another very iconic minion is Wild Pyromancer, and I think this is a really simple change. Why don't you just make it a 2/3? So now it gets one more activation without changing the total stats of the minion. I don't think this would be too strong in most decks. I don't think it goes in most decks. I think that there are very few decks that even want to play a card like this. And I think that's fine, right? As I said that, I just realized that you could play this with, like, Toxic Arrow, and that would be really funny, because now it lives Toxic Arrow, because Toxic Arrow deals 2 damage. So you do have that, but that's kind of bad, and you would rather do anything else, like, genuinely anything else. But I think this is a fine change. It's a lot better this way. I think that it basically, it just gives it one more activation of its effect. Aside from in Paladin, I guess, because Paladin would play this with, like, Holy Mackie roll, and you wouldn't care because you would heal it. So there's that, but, I had already mentioned Mana Wraith. I do think Mana Wraith could be, like, a 2-mana 3/3, and then you would play this as, like, a tech card in a lot of decks. All minions cost 1 more. That's not actually that bad for a lot of decks. It just still get removed by slower decks, maybe in, like, a 2-mana 3/2. 3/3 for sure. It still get removed by a lot of slower decks. It still gets bumped pretty well by some decks, but it slows down aggro decks. It just slows them down. And maybe that's too strong. Maybe it could be actually a little too strong now that I think about it, but don't care. Didn't ask. I think that a card like this is interesting enough that it could be made like this. Another thing you could do is, I think, 3/2 is probably still more fair because it needs to die, but it being overstated is correct because it does actually affect you. You could easily just do 2/3, and that's fair as well. I just think the 2 health makes this card worse than it should be, even for a legacy card. I think that this card could be playable in today's game if it was a 3 health minion. Seriously. Because it's not actually that easy to kill at 3 health. 2 health is so easy. 1 and 2 health are really fucking easy. It's not even real. 3 health is where it becomes like, okay, now that's a break point that you have so many cards that can't do anything about it. And then you have 4 health, which is a huge break point, especially at 2 mana, that is a little toxic for certain cards for Watch Post. And then, yeah, this also, is a lot more similar to a card like Farwatch Post in the sense. And Farwatch Post isn't very broken. It's actually pretty fair. It's strong in certain matchups, it's bad in a lot of others, and I think that this falls into the same boat. Lastly, I want to buff Captain's Parrot. I think this card is interesting. It is a non-pirate that draws a pirate. So it is a card from another tribe that interacts with another tribe. So I think you could easily make it a 3/2. It's aggressively statted to, because it's a card that it interacts with pirates. And I think that that's fun. I think it's fun to have, Menagerie decks. And this would push Menagerie a lot, actually. Would it be great? Probably not. Again, a lot of these cards are being balanced more towards Twist. If I wanted to make Captain's Parrot good, I would make it like a 1-mana 3/1, right? That would be really good. It would be a lot. It would suit play at that. But, 1-mana 2/3 or 3/2, draw a pirate from your deck. This, you might be saying, oh, but didn't Captain's Parrot see play in Quest Rogue? So, You don't play it anymore. There's no reason to. So this just makes it more of a standalone card rather than just tied to Quest Rogue, and I think that this is cool. If you enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think below. Did I make any cool cards? Did I make any cool changes? I didn't really change the effect of a lot of cards, but I changed around their numbers. Do you think any of them are too strong or too weak? Legacy cards are really boring, to be honest with you, so trying to change their effects kind of isn't doable, but changing numbers around makes them a lot, better for the metagame at large. Yeah, that's it for me. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.